After the storm, this girl ends up on a deserted island, where every sunset becomes a countdown to her next encounter with a terrifying monster. A girl in a life jacket lies unconscious on the shore of a tropical island. Her name is Jen. The water slowly pulls her back into the ocean. She coughs violently, struggling for breath, and barely makes it back to the shore. There, Jen finds an injured man. It's her friend, Brad. She takes off her life jacket and drags Brad away from the water. The youngster has impaled himself on a coral reef. The wound is too severe, and Jen screams loudly, pleading for help. The young woman removes a piece of the coral stuck in Brad's body and presses on the wound. She searches the island for drinking water. Instead, Jen finds a ripe coconut and cracks it open with a sharp stone. She tries to give Brad coconut water, but sees that he no longer shows any signs of life. So, she is completely alone. Jen wanders the tropical island, trying to understand where she has ended up and whether there might be other people here. After some time, the girl notices a small clearing in the middle of the jungle. It looks like people had once been here. A bag with some pills hangs from a tree, and next to it stands a crate of Coca-Cola bottles. There is also a dust-covered thermos and a small box containing matches and other useful items. Jen also finds an old backpack. She takes out a horror book, a dirty teddy bear, a Tetris game, and several other childhood items. The girl returns to Brad and covers him with large tropical leaves. Gradually, it gets dark. A heavy rainstorm with thunder and lightning begins at night. Jen takes shelter under a tree, wrapped in the cloak she found on the shore. Morning comes. Several large fish wash up on the beach. Jen puts them in her backpack. One of the fish looks as if it has been attacked by some kind of monster. The girl takes out a cap, sunglasses, and a notebook with notes from the backpack. The water has made the text barely readable. Jen finds a photo of her boyfriend, Lucas, and gazes thoughtfully at the ocean. She doesn't know whether he survived. During the day, she continues wandering the island and discovers an old burial site. It seems these are the graves of the people whose belongings Jen found on the shore. The protagonist returns to Brad and realizes that he also needs a proper burial. She buries him in the sand and places a makeshift grave marker. In the evening, Jen lights a fire and grills some fish for dinner. Morning comes. The girl walks along the shore and notices something very strange. Brad's grave has been dug up. His body is gone, but there's a red trail leading toward the ocean. Jen sharpens a makeshift spear to defend herself from the unknown creature. In the evening, she lights a fire again. She wakes up to a strange noise in the middle of the night. It may be just the wind, or maybe something else. Either way, nothing attacks Jen. In the morning, the protagonist notices their luggage washed ashore. She jumps into the water to bring a floating suitcase to the beach. Jen dives to check if there are any other things underwater, and spots a sinister hole on the ocean floor, resembling some kind of lair. She immediately resurfaces, grabs her suitcase, and heads back to shore. Inside, the girl finds her clothes and shoes. Finally, she's able to change into something warmer. Jen looks through the photos she found in the old box. They show an ordinary, happy family. A plane flies across the sky. The girl grabs a flare gun and fires a signal rocket, hoping to attract attention. Unfortunately, the plane flies past, and Jen remains alone on the island. Or, not so alone. Jen notices the silhouette of a giant humanoid monster emerging from the ocean and immediately runs deeper into the island. She hides among the tropical jungle, frozen in terror. The monster roams the island, growling angrily as it searches for its prey, but it fails to find her. Morning comes. Jen steps out onto the beach with a stick in her hand and looks at the photos she found again. She notices demonic eyes on one of them. The girl dumps her belongings out of the suitcase and packs the life vest inside instead. She puts on her swimsuit and drags the suitcase to the shore. Jen decides to use it as a makeshift raft to escape the cursed island, but the suitcase keeps flipping over, and she realizes it's hopeless. As night falls, Jen hides inside the hollow trunk of a massive tree, so the monster won't be able to find her. Her plan works. The creature roams the island once again but fails to locate its prey. In the morning, Jen crawls out of her shelter and collects small fish into a bucket. She uses them as bait to catch something bigger. With the help of her handmade spear, she manages to catch a fairly large fish and cries out in joy. That night, Jen finds a new shelter, and everything remains calm. As the girl prepares for her fourth night in the company of the monstrous creature, another strange object washes up on the shore. That's the body of her friend Zach, or rather, half of it. Apparently, he became prey to the sea monster. Jen drags Zach's remains onto the shore. She decides to use his body as bait in order to get a better look at her mysterious enemy. At night, the protagonist hides in a pit near the shore and waits for the sea beast. Before long, it appears and takes its prey. The next day, Jen makes a hammock out of improvised materials and hangs it between two tall trees. She climbs in and waits for the sunset. In the middle of the night, the monster comes out to hunt again. It notices the hammock and tries to knock it down. Gradually, the hammock gets lower and lower. Jen tries to escape. The creature chases her and lands several powerful blows. The girl fights back with her handmade spear and barely manages to survive. A new day begins. Jen sees a large wound on her leg. She steps into the water to wash off the blood, changes her clothes, and once again looks out at the ocean. Suddenly, she spots something strange floating on the water. It's a life raft. Jen swims toward it and sees that there are living people on board. It's her beloved boyfriend Lucas and their mutual friend Mia. What a happy reunion. The friends celebrate their rescue and drink some Coca-Cola. Jen reveals that a terrifying monster lives near the island, and they need to leave this place as soon as possible. Her story sounds so insane that Lucas and Mia can hardly believe it. On top of that, Mia is deeply grieving Brad's death. She loved him very much. Jen suggests to Lucas that they should sail west. She wants to gather more food for the journey, so she borrows her boyfriend's folding knife and heads into the jungle. Taking a closer look at the knife, she notices traces of blood. Something about it feels very suspicious. Jen begs her friends to get on the life raft and leave the island before nightfall. Lucas refuses, claiming that he and Mia are too exhausted. Neither of them still believes her stories about the monster, so Jen decides to leave on her own. She packs her things, loads her backpack, and drags the life raft toward the water. Lucas and Mia notice this and run after her. Jen fights back fiercely, but Mia knocks her out with a paddle. When Jen regains consciousness, she realizes two things. First, it's already night, and second, she's tied up. Mia sits nearby, calling her a liar. Soon Lucas shows up and insists there's no one else on the island. Despite Jen's pleas, neither of them plans to untie her. Worse yet, Lucas accuses his girlfriend of ruining his vacation and even hints that he might somehow be involved in Zach's death. Mia walks along the shoreline and suddenly starts screaming. Lucas rushes to his friend and witnesses the sea monster attacking her. He tries to save his friend, but the creature is much stronger. It throws Lucas aside and drags Mia into the water. With tremendous effort, Jen manages to free herself. She runs to the beach and rescues Lucas. A new day begins. Now, Lucas finally believes his girlfriend and agrees to leave the island on the life raft. They gather their belongings and prepare for another long journey. Jen catches several fish and roasts them over a fire. She tosses the empty matchbox into the flames, checks through all the remaining supplies to take whatever might be useful, and then returns to the raft. The characters push the raft into the water and climb aboard. Jen notices that the inside is covered with something red. It looks like blood. But whose? Probably Zach's. Jen and Lucas set course for the west, but don't get far from the island before the sea monster attacks again. It tears a hole in their raft and grabs Jen. The creature drags her down toward its massive black lair, but the protagonist reaches Lucas's pocket knife and uses it to wound the monster. It releases Jen and turns back toward the raft to attack Lucas. The girl watches the final moments of her beloved. Jen surfaces and swims back to the island. The remains of her torn life raft are also washed ashore. She manages to start a fire on the old ashes, this time without even using matches. Jen takes out the notebook and describes in detail everything that has happened to her. It turns out that a week ago, their boat was caught in a storm and wrecked. Jen writes about how she managed to survive on this island and recounts the fates of her companions. She hopes that her notes might one day save someone's life if she doesn't make it out alive herself. At the same time, Jen builds a trap to finally get rid of the terrifying monster once and for all. Night falls. Jen lures the sea creature into a circle made of wood and grass, then sets her trap on fire. The heroine fights the monster using sharp branches and even human bones. The two engage in a brutal struggle, inflicting serious wounds on each other. The monster chases Jen all the way to the shore, but soon collapses from its wounds. The girl approaches it and raises her harpoon. She takes the creature's head and, limping, makes her way toward the life raft. Now she finally has proof that she wasn't lying.